Hello, just wanted to make a quick video about the Irish Grand National, the 5 o'clock at Fairyhouse this afternoon. Clearly don't have time to go through all 30 runners, so I just wanted to pick out the two horses that I am most interested in. Um, one's pretty obvious, one's slightly less obvious. Um, the obvious horse is Arduke, who is currently clear favourite at the top of the market, currently 7.4 on Betfair. Um, I mean, he will go off favourite. 7.4 would suggest that he has around a 13% chance of winning. Um, I think his chances is a fair bit higher than that, although he does come with his risks. So he's Jessica Harrington's horse, running off a mark of 153. Um, I wanted to take a quick look at his last performance, where he was second behind Disco. That form has been franked somewhat since Disco ran okay at Cheltenham. I thought he was actually slightly below his best. He didn't jump as well as he could, but the form has, I suppose, been boosted to an extent. But if we just take a wee look at the kind of last three or four fences in this race, I just want to examine the way that Arduke jumps. You see, you see there, he's not a bad jumper by any means. He he never looks like the type to fall, but he's not very efficient through the air. I mean, in terms of the horse's profile, and then again you see there he loses a length or so. In terms of his profile, he's a, to use the old cliche, a big old-fashioned chasing type. He's an absolute brute. He's massive. He does look the sort to be suited by staying chases, and you see there the thing that makes me think that, because this was 2.5 miles this day, that he'll be suited by the extra mile is they went a strong gallop that day, and particularly from about halfway, Disco really kicked on. And again, you see there slightly inefficient jump. But even in spite of that strong pace, he was still quite badly outpaced as they turned for home. And to be outpaced in a strongly run race suggests that you really struggle with a change of gear. And just look at the way he finishes that day. Disco wasn't finishing particularly strongly, but he made up significant headway in the closing stages of that race. And he's always shaped like he would be suited by further. And going back to his penultimate start, where he won by half a length to Coney Island, he never really looked like winning that day. And he just found for pressure. He just stayed on. He plodded on. He's slightly one paced, but that's no bad thing when you're talking about a 3.5 mile chase. I think 153 underrates him on the basis of that time performance last time out. I'd rated Disco's time performance that day as being a 160 on my speed figures. Um, on a line through the Irish Gold Cup, which was run immediately afterwards, Disco's sectional times that day were a good bit better. And although he didn't quite run up to that in the JLT, I think he is a good horse, and I think it's important to say that Arduke that was certainly the best horse that day. He didn't jump as well as Disco, and of course jumping's the name of the game. But in terms of the engine and in terms of how close he got in spite of kind of inefficient jumping, he was certainly the best animal in that race. I've actually picked him out at 33 to 1 for next year's Gold Cup. He would have to become slightly slicker in the jumping stakes, but he looks ideally suited by that kind of stiff, extended 3 miles. And yeah, I mean, 153, I think, certainly underrates him. I mean, your concern is the kind of hustle and bustle of a big 30-runner race, and whether that affects his ability to get into a good kind of jumping rhythm. I would want to race quite handy if I were him. I would want to stay out of trouble and just kind of fire him into his fences. I mean, Robbie Power is riding extremely well at the moment, and he's riding confidently, and they hold him in the highest of regards. So I mean, there's not all that much juice in his price at 7.4, but I think he's by far and away the most likely winner. And I think if he were to get a safe round, he's probably the best handicapped horse in the race off 153. And I think even if he doesn't win today, I think he's a horse of huge promise for the future. I think he can go on to much better things regardless of the result. And I think, I mean, even though there's not all that much juice in the price at 7.4, I still think that um, underrates him slightly. I think he is still a value price. I would rate his chance probably somewhere between 20 and 25% of winning. I think if it's all about getting around and getting around safely, and I don't think there's an 85% chance of him not getting a clear run. So I'd be quite happy to back him at the current prices. And regardless of the result today, I think he'll go on to better things. The other horse I want to flag up at a significantly bigger price is Alpha Desobo, Mouse Morris's. Um, he has been abandoned by Brian Cooper today, who goes for General Principle. Although interestingly, it's actually Tiger Roll who's the shortest price of the 14 Gigginstown runners. Um, I thought Alpha Desobo put up a massive, massive performance at Cheltenham. When you take into account everything that went wrong for him. So if we take a look at the sectionals from Cheltenham, I've rated Mike Bite's performance that day on my speed figures at 175, which was by £5 or so the best performance of the entire week. They went a serious, serious gallop that day. To put it into context, between the first and bear with me a second, between the first and 3 out, they clocked 303.05 seconds. And in Temper 2's race the day before, which itself was strongly run, in the same period they were 6 seconds slower. 6 seconds. Now the ground conditions were slightly different, but on Temper 2's run was strong. It was a strongly run race, and so for Mike Bite's race to be an entire 6 seconds quicker is quite something. Or to put it a different way, and this is Altior's race on the first day, between the third and 3 out in Altior's race, Altior clocked 141.13 compared with 140.84 for Mike Bite in his race, despite it being a mile further. So it was a very strongly run race. And if you look at the way, and again, I don't have the video here, but if you look at the way that Alpha Desobo ran that day, press leading pair, ridden after 3 out, soon won pace, broke blood vessel. But what that doesn't actually tell you is how keen Alpha Desobo was that day, and that was unusual. It was perhaps a sign of his well-being and how well he was for that day. He was very, very keen throughout the race, which, given how strongly the race was run, was a bit surprising, but uh, it was clearly an inefficient run from him. He was in the vanguard the whole way. He was keen, and ultimately he also broke a blood vessel. So for him to have been as close as 18 lengths behind Mike Bite and Whisper, who have since gone on to frank the form, these are two horses who ran 175 and about 170 on my speed figures respectively. So for him to be 18 lengths behind, given the way he'd run the race, given he broke a blood vessel, and given how keen he was, suggests that that was a big, big performance that day, and significantly better than the 147 that he's running off. I would probably have rated that about 155, but also with a P at the end of it for potential. The fact that he could run much better than that. Now, unlike our Duke, who's perhaps a slightly safer option, Alpha Desobo does have his issues. So, I mean, the obvious one is the fact that he hasn't, on both of his last two runs, he's burst quite badly. Now that didn't actually stop him running well last time out, but it is a concern. When you have a horse who bursts late on in a race, it's never a good sign. And also the fact that how keen he was over a strongly run 3 miles last time out would be a concern. Over the extended 3.5, will he get home? Will he stay the trip? Perhaps not. And even if he's not keen, he's never been the sort to look like he really wants a marathon trip. But even going back to his World Hurdle performance last season when he was second behind Thistlecrack, that was one of the best I mean, it was the best staying hurdle performance I've ever seen. It was one of the best hurdle races we've seen in the last 3 years. And for him to have got as close as he did to Thistlecrack that day, I mean, I rated him about 170 horse over hurdles on that basis. And I think 147 underrates him. I'm not too concerned that Brian Cooper's looked elsewhere. It's not like Ruby, who doesn't make many mistakes when it comes to picking the horses. When you've got 14 runners and you've got runners across multiple stables, it's very hard to get a handle on who the best horse is. And I think Brian Cooper he's gone with the unexposed sort, but I think from his point of view, he would probably see it as too much of a risk choosing Alpha Di Zobo because of his problem with bursting blood vessels. But all these things are factored into his price now. He's currently 32 or 31 to 1 on Betfair. I mean, he might not get home, he might be too keen, he might burst again, but he is, on the basis of his last run and also his hurdle second behind Thistlecrack last season, he is well handicapped. He's certainly half a stone well in, I think, if he were to run to his best. Probably even better in. I think he has the potential to be the best handicapped horse in the race. You do have, as I've mentioned, the issues with him, the trip, the fact he burst last time, and his keenness, and also the fact that Mouse Morris is great at targeting a horse for one day. You know, think about his second to Thistlecrack last season, and then his below par run at Punchestown. He may be over the hill. He may not be as good a horse as he was at Cheltenham. But that's all factored into the price at 31 or 32 on Betfair. And I wouldn't put you off having a bet there. So to quickly summarise, Arduke, worthy favourite. I think he's going places regardless of how he gets on today. He might not enjoy the hustle and bustle. He might not jump well enough. But hopefully Robbie Power will have him in a good position, give him plenty of sight of his fences, get him to a good rhythm, and I think he'll be ideally suited by the extended trip. He's short at 7.4, but I still think, a 13% chance of him winning does actually underrate him slightly. I think he's probably closer to 20-25%. So I would suggest that you have an interest in him, and also a slightly smaller interest at a bigger price in Alpha Di Zobo, who comes with issues, there's no doubt, but could be the best handicapped horse in the entire race. Also important to note that David Mullins is brilliant up and coming jockey, and obviously won for Mouse Morris at the Grand National last year. So he knows his way around Fairyhouse, and I think at the prices he's interesting. Thanks guys, and I'll post another video soon. Cheers.